C'baoth doesn't seem to have like explored the technology very well, because he's very confused about like, oh, what's a Sparty tube?
Yeah, because he's very like, oh, you know, I can do everything through the Force. You know, he's very like religious, very spiritual,
and very personal as well.
Yeah,
he wants that one-on-one connection with his dominions.
We don't need an energy source. I am the energy source.
He powers the whole village on his Peloton bike. All right, hello there. You've found the Lost Holocron, an ancient artifact of lore and legends from a galaxy far, far away. Each transmission of the Lost Holocron, you will join an episodic discussion of media from the Star Wars universe. We will be your guides. Tim?
Hey.
Kyle?
Hi there.
Scott?
Hey.
And I'm Stuart. We will be covering the material up to and including Chapter 8 of Heir to the Empire. So Tim, what's the story so far?
Alright, so far, the New Republic and Imperial Remnants are struggling for control of the galaxy, each holding comparable military might and galactic territory. Looking to reverse the tide, the last of the Imperial Grand Admirals has found and bargained for the favor of a cloned Dark Jedi, offering up both the adult and unborn Skywalker twins. A trap for the Skywalkers was laid and sprung during a diplomatic mission for the Republic to Bimmisaari. However, the unidentified alien commandos were unprepared to face Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. Luke, Leia, and Han escape unscathed, but the nature of their assailants are still a mystery to them. Yeah, Kyle, what happened in this chapter?
Oh, fantastic. So far, Captain Pellaeon reports to Grand Admiral Thrawn detailing the failure of the Noghri to capture the Skywalkers and the recovery of the tech found on Wayland. Dark Jedi Master C'baoth expresses impatience, and a plan is hatched to capture the Skywalkers, one that suits Thrawn's upcoming plans that necessitates C'baoth's presence for a raid on the Sluis shipyard. Meanwhile, back in Coruscant, the New Republic are unable to identify the assailants at Bimmisaari, and as a result, politics stall. While Leia Organa Solo is set to return to Bimmisaari to resume negotiations, she requests more space in her schedule to advance her Jedi studies, but finds no support within the Council, citing her expertise as indispensable.
I thought it was pretty cool to jump between factions in this chapter.
I noticed that too. That was something I was like, is this the first for this so far?
It is, yeah, because the first 6 chapters went like Imperial Republic, etc. Right. And then we had 2 chapters of Republic action with our heroes, and now we have a split. And it was cool.
I'm not always a fan of the split chapters, but I feel like the theme was quite fairly contained in this section.
Yeah, because they're both related, you know, like Thrawn and Pellaeon are talking about how their plan failed and how did Luke basically, you know, stop them. But then on the other side, on the Republic side, they're like, who are these people trying to get us?
Yeah, their plan failed too.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. We're seeing the same scenario from both sides in this chapter.
Really cool. It's like a shadow war.
And we find out what the third item they were looking for on Mount Tantus was on Wayland.
Right.
Yeah. So how would you pronounce this? Is it a Sparty tube?
Yeah, I would say Sparty.
Yeah, Sparty tubes. I'm pretty sure that's how the audiobook said it, Sparty tubes.
It kind of like gives that feeling of like Spartan as well. So I wonder if it's like super soldier sort of tech, or because the line says that it is fine equipment for us to rebuild the Empire. So I'm thinking it's either like super soldier technology or like something like the Starforge maybe that creates some sort of like robotic tech, or like probably not as magical as the Starforge, just creating matter.
Yeah.
Or as maybe it's some sort of energy cylinder as well. Because they talk about like because we don't know how big these tubes are, they could be just like power cells or something to just give them some sort of technological edge.
Yeah, no. I definitely get the same impression as you, where it's definitely not like this magical space station that creates all the ships and robots you want, you know, like the Starforge. It's, yeah. I imagine I get the impression it's something a bit more fundamental. So like an energy source makes sense to me. And I think that's also why it would be called a tube.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing that came to my mind was like the tube that, like the bacta tube that Luke was in, after he was recovering from Hoth. But I mean, it seemed this. I don't know. That might be too, thinking too small on this scale, because it doesn't seem like that would be something that could help rebuild the Empire. I mean, I'm sure they have a million of those already.
I mean, maybe if it's like a super soldier serum.
Yeah, something like that. Make like Captain America's out of all their soldiers or something. But
yeah, Captain Empire.
But the other thing is that C'baoth doesn't seem to have like explored the technology very well, because he's very confused about like, what's a Sparty tube?
Yeah,
he hasn't used any of the planetary defenses. So, is he a technophobe, or like?
I think in a way, yeah, because he seems like he's kind of almost intentionally keeping himself ignorant to what these are, or has in the past.
Oh, okay.
I do think that technophobe. I think that's a good word for him, because he's very like, I can do everything through the Force. He's very like religious, very spiritual,
and very personal as well.
I wouldn't say it's a phobia. I'd say it's more of a lack of interest.
Yeah, apathy.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
he wants that one-on-one connection with his dominions, with his emissaries.
Right. Yeah. It's like we don't need an energy source. I am the energy source.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He powers the whole village on his Peloton bike.
I did like C'baoth's argument for going after Luke, because he was like, well, he's a Jedi Knight and I'm a Jedi Master, so he will answer my call. He will come to me, basically. But Thrawn is very much like, no, I need you here to help bolster the troops. But, well, if you want him to help you, you need to give him what he wants, which is Luke or Leia and the twins in this case. And it's like, if you give him what he wants first, then he'll help you bolster the troops.
Yeah, I don't think Thrawn cares.
Yeah, I guess not.
I don't get the impression that he has much respect for anything related to the Force.
Well,
no, he does seem to look down his nose at that.
I mean, I feel like he looks down his nose at everything. I don't think there's much that he respects.
Except for Pellaeon when he brings up a useful idea.
Well, yeah. I thought that was cool. He's like, you don't have to apologize. You don't care if you cut in.
He seems very utilitarian in most aspects of his character.
Yeah, but kind of going back on Thrawn's idea of the Force, it's very much like, it's like, oh, I have my Isomari, it's like the Force is useless, and basically I can negate the Force, and I can, it's like something else that he can conquer.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
What I think is an interesting contrast is that C'baoth is very in the moment, and he doesn't really care about these lofty plans that take years or decades to come to fruition, whereas that is all that Thrawn seems to care about.
Yeah.
Like, he says that, a few Noghri is not going to deplete our stores or our, I can't remember the words that he used.
Right, yeah. He was so cold about them.
Yeah. But he was just like, a couple of lives here or there don't matter. We've got long arching plans that, there's definitely a few pivotal pieces that he wants to pay, like, particular personal attention to. But, there's those two characters. One of them wants what's in the moment. And I feel like a little bit, if C'baoth gets Luke or his Jedi, that he's going to become a lot less cooperative to the Imperial interests.
True. Yeah. He definitely has to be thinking about that.
I did like that in this chapter it's mentioned that the Salamari are just kind of around on the ship. And I love the idea that they got too many and then they just have like a weird infestation and just kind of hanging everywhere, wandering around, just doing whatever they want.
Like walking by and they step into some Murray poop.
Because I thought he had one, but it seems like they have a bunch, and I have no idea how many they have.
So, we mentioned before about how Thrawn still calls this the rebellion, but one thing I noticed how Pellaeon was like the the rebellion when he was talking to Thrawn.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like Pellaeon actually respects them in a way as the New Republic.
I mean, outside of Thrawn's command center, it seems to be referred to as the New Republic as well.
Yeah.
The petty officer at the beginning, he referred to it as the New Republic, and that I wonder how aggressive Thrawn might have been in the past about nomenclature.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in this chapter wondering what the fall of Thrawn is going to look like. I see it as either he's going to unravel at one point, or if he's going to just make a mistake. I'm not too sure. I'm very interested to see where that's going to go.
I think it'll be his own hubris in
I
some
think so too.
way, shape, or form.
My hubris?
But you make a good point. Like, I think it's either going to go the way of Tarkin, all the way up to the last moment, feeling like he's been vindicated, and then just being blown up on the Death Star, which is not a bad way to go. That seems pretty instantaneous.
Yeah.
Or, as you said, he just becomes unraveled. I don't know. That's a hard picture to see what's that's like.
Just go for Zua from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just mad with power.
Maybe he'll be like the cornered rat, you know, so it's like fighting to the last breath. Or whatever. I don't know. I can foresee him and Palpatine kind of having a similar downfall with their hubris in a way.
Being stabbed in the back.
Not necessarily that, but just like becoming so full of themselves and just becoming so arrogant that they don't see their own downfall basically coming.
Yeah, underestimating how those working with them feel.
Yeah.
In general. Also like Snoke with Kylo.
Right. What did you think of C'baoth in this chapter? Because I felt like we got to see him a little bit, like, not 100% present. He seems to, like, be a sort of, like, frayed tapestry, almost.
He probably is a bit overwhelmed. Or out of his element.
Okay, yeah.
He's probably overwhelmed by all the technology.
And by all the Salamiri everywhere.
Oh yeah.
He's basically blinded.
Yeah.
That could be quite disorienting. Because I was wondering if it's the, as mentioned earlier, that clones tend to degrade with age, and whether he's just kind of, he's acting all regal in some points and very stern or volatile in other points, and very kind of like wounded, particularly in the beginning of like, well, why aren't you giving me my Jedi? Am I just something to be cast aside? And then him regally stroking his beard at the end of the chapter. Yes, this suits me. I'll be in my chambers.
Right, yeah. That's right.
That's me too.
It's time for his workout.
Stroked his beard.
Yeah. It's funny they mention clones degrading as they age, as if humans don't.
Right.
Yeah, he's definitely I would say overall, not in his element. Also, I mean, right, he does appear to be a bit more erratic compared to when we first saw him.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's also a bit of posturing as well, maybe to try to regain a sense of control. Because he doesn't have his subjects there either.
No.
At the moment, he doesn't really have anything to influence any form of control over. Not using the Force or no one under him. He's just essentially constantly bargaining with Thrawn. And that's probably very exhausting as well.
Oh, so that's an interesting take on C'baoth, but what's your take on Thrawn in this chapter?
I think Thrawn's also a little destabilized because his plan didn't work.
He doesn't seem like one who's used to his plans failing.
Although he does seem to have contingency for it. He didn't seem particularly bothered to have to get Team 4 in rather than Team 8.
I think there's probably a bit of posturing with him going on as well, because he had a plan that failed, so he wants to regain his image. At the same time, it failed to a Jedi, and he doesn't seem to think much of the Force.
No.
And so I think he's trying to act like, no, everything's fine. There's still not much of a threat, you know?
Right.
I've got my Salamiri. Everything's good.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, why not overwhelm them? Like, why have Team 4 and Team 8? If there was just like 80 of these little dudes with their little net launchers, they could have easily taken them out.
Well, they're probably on different missions throughout the galaxy, and I don't think he fully understands the threat that a Jedi poses. I think he willfully doesn't understand it.
Well, not even just Jedi, though, because, I mean, Leia's there as well, which is a high political figure right now.
Also a Jedi.
Yeah, also, yeah.
No, I think if it hadn't been for Luke, they would have been captured for sure.
True, yeah. True.
Yeah.
I think, as Tim put it, Thrawn was overreaching by trying to manipulate things into getting Luke to also be captured at the same time, because he was a last-minute addition to that mission.
Right, he was. Or maybe he wasn't even aware of Luke.
Maybe not. Well, I mean, he knows Luke.
I mean, aware of his existence, but not aware that he would be there, because he was a last-minute addition.
He may not be aware of Luke's talents, though, as well, because, he knows to an extent what the Force can do, because he saw C'baoth use the lightning in the cave, but he doesn't know much about, like, the combat of a Jedi and using the Force in combat to fight off. He's just like, oh, the Force can shoot lightning, but he doesn't know what else the Force can do. He doesn't know that the Force can do a lot of, make a fighter so much better.
I think part of it may also be that he wants to prove he's better than Luke, because Luke's that farm boy who blew up the Death Star twice and defeated Palpatine and Vader, and so he's like, no, you didn't defeat us this entire time. I will best you. You are nothing compared to me,
He must have had some idea of what a lightsaber could do against a blaster, because he sent the Noghri after him with the Stogli sticks, not blasters.
Right, yeah. Those are pretty effective against lightsabers, and also effective for capturing.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of the moment when Pellaeon submits an idea, and Thrawn was like, yeah, it worked, it's totally useful. And then Pellaeon to himself wonders if Thrawn would have accepted a useful idea from the Jedi as well, meaning C'baoth.
He seems to have a lot of disdain for any Jedi in particular. Especially C'baoth.
Moving over to the Republic section of this chapter, and we talked about posturing between both Thrawn and C'baoth. Pellaeon
Yes.
is quite performative character.
He is.
Very specifically posturing for political gain. But also I have to kind of wonder, of course we know from outside that this is an imperial scheme, but do you think that he is rightly being skeptical, or is he just being a contrarian in this council?
He seems like he's got a pretty big ego as well, so I'd say probably contrarian.
I interpret it more as inexperienced.
Inexperience? Okay.
Yeah, I think he genuinely means well. I don't think he has the same instincts as the rest.
No.
But I do think he, his own personal ambitions aside, I think he does also want to do good.
Yeah. Because, if it was me in that position, that, some unknown assailants, you can't find record of them, and there was just some corruption going on here, but that doesn't necessarily point to a big plot of anything. It could just be something that's contained to that planet, or some sort of.
And it doesn't really require a big military operation.
No.
Or it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. So while I do think he's trying to make his political power not known, but try to find an area where he can be right, then if he is right, he gets the clout for having called it correctly.
And I mean that interpretation of events from that perspective, even looking outside of his ambitions, I think is personally reasonable. I think this is something that would be a very fair thing to debate amongst this kind of council.
Yeah.
To try to hash out the severity of what happened.
Yeah. And
respond appropriately.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to set up a government and are very spread thin.
Mm-hmm. I think, as Han said in the end of the last chapter, that they want a squad of X-Wings would probably be a little bit too much. I'm not sure how they break up their military, but a protective detail wouldn't be bad, as he points out that they got there somehow, presuming they're not local to the planet. They had a ride out, and you got to look out for any ships that might pursue you in that way.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, that's not the worst thing. Another thought I had is that I think Ophelia is also potentially trying to bring up what it would look like diplomatically to come there with like this big show of power.
Yeah.
Because I think we also have to remember that they don't have any control over this planet.
Yeah, they're trying to make a good impression.
Yeah.
You know, not like an impression like, oh, we'll just blast you to submission.
But even outside of that, you know, let's be real. These characters have to know that anyone aside from the core group who's going to go along with them is not going to make it out.
Hey guys, we're on this special mission. We want you to wear this red uniform.
Yeah.
Why the change of uniform? Move along, red shirt.
Yeah.
It won't matter. You won't be wearing it forever.
Right. Sorry, all the extra plot armor's in the wash.
On the way there, you should tell me about your hopes and dreams about the future.
Oh, is there any tragedy in your backstory I should know about?
Is there anybody that's like 2 weeks out from retirement? This would be the perfect mission for them.
One last mission before you go.
Anyone new, and this is their first mission.
Failure is really well described in this chapter, though. There's some very good imagery about their posturing, and I feel like I get a really good sense of the air of this character, really.
Yeah, there's this one thing where after he says something, it says that he said it with that air of wounded pride that he did so well.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that description.
Yeah, very nice.
Another thing that I really liked seeing in this chapter was Han sticking up for the importance of Leia's Jedi training. Because when we're first introduced to him, he's straight up just like, hey, the Force doesn't exist. All I need is a blaster. And look.
Pokey religions.
And now he is like, now he gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he prioritizes it even.
Yeah.
Part of that probably because he's like, you need another weapon. But, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
The other part is probably because he understands.
Yeah, I think that shows the transformation from, like, A New Hope, where he's very selfish, and further beyond thinking more about other people and what they can bring to the table, or even just, like, their sensitivities as well.
Yes.
I think that's really good character development for Han. And I felt like Han was really well Han in this movie. Yeah, not movie. In this chapter.
Yes.
It did feel all the kind of like the mannerisms as well, and him jabbing a finger, and like I felt like they really captured him well.
Yeah, I liked that restraint he showed at the beginning too. I think he had an exchange with Phalia, and he really, really wanted to just like say something extremely sarcastic, but he held himself back and was like, no, I'll be more diplomatic.
Yeah. And then there's a little bit of ego depletion towards the end of the chapter where he becomes a little bit more combative.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
I thought it was weird how, like, they seem to have no backup plan for Leia at all. No. It's like, because when she asked for some time for herself, he's like, maybe in a year, and it's like, she's pregnant with twins, like, that's definitely gonna come out within the next year. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure she'll be able to do stuff after that, after she gives birth. But like, you can't just expect her to just be there constantly.
Yeah, they really, really, really need more officials to work alongside them.
Yeah.
I'm also confused why. Do they just not have anyone they trust? Why the time span of a year?
That's a very good question.
I think it's just like conservative political estimates. But yeah, you should be able to train somebody, maybe not for that high of a position, but at least to delegate subtasks of her position.
Yeah.
I'm sure if this had been written in this decade or the last, there would be a lot more, because there would be a lot more memes of background characters to take advantage of for new characters.
Right.
What's your like assistant's name?
Winter.
Oh, Winter.
Right, yeah.
That girl is weird. I don't miss her.
Yeah, but she seems perfect to take care of the kids while, Leia's off after the fact, after back to work.
I feel like she would be wasted as a nanny, though. She seems to have, so far, very good skills and, political experience. So I'm not sure how she would be relegated to just being the nanny.
Yeah, but she seems like the kind of nanny that could, teach the kids and introduce them to that kind of thing, though.
Nah, just throw them on the Falcon. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Kind of like Mom away from Mom, I guess.
Yeah.
I forget, in this chapter, did they mention that it's a boy and a girl? Do they know that? I feel like I remember that being mentioned in this chapter.
That has been mentioned, because in the last one he said, I'm protecting you, your sister, your niece, and your nephew. So it is known that is boy and girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, Luke might have been able to figure it out through the Force or something.
Gross.
I'm pretty sure they have medical technology to sort those things out as well.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess it also depends on how far along she is, but I guess they could also figure that out pretty early, depending on, the technology.
I do keep forgetting that they are not, hiding underground anymore.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What do you mean they're not hiding underground?
Well, because when you're the rebellion, you have to be a little more
Yeah.
subtle about what you do and where you go. But I feel like they definitely have more freedom to move about. And if I'm sure she has some sort of medical treatment from someone there or something.
I mean, they're on the galactic capital of Coruscant, so
Right.
they might have some genetic testing, or we don't know what space medicine's like. So
Probably better than ours.
let's hope so.
Everybody's is better than ours.
Where is Luke while these things are going on? Because everybody acknowledges that Jedi are important for some reason, but he's not present in any of the meetings. Is he trying to?
Yeah.
I don't know. What is the purpose of the Jedi?
Yeah, if this is a debriefing on you guys were almost captured, et cetera, shouldn't Luke have been there? Because he seems like he would have been pretty much a key witness to he was.
Yeah.
And could have given them a lot of insight into this whole capture attempt.
I wonder if there's some parallels to Thrawn to be found there. Just not a disdain for the Jedi, but just a lack of understanding for their importance, because they don't seem to value Leia's Jedi training as much as the immediate needs either.
No.
So I think it's a softer form of what we see with Thrawn. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a major theme throughout this book.
I think you might be right about that too, yeah.
Because even the political role of the Jedi is unclear in the prequels and the Old Republic as well. It seems, there's church and state kind of things going on, but this church also has demonstrable telekinetic power.
Yeah. This church has proof.
It's kind of odd that part isn't explored as much as it is. We kind of we get it. They're the Guardians of Peace and protectors of the galaxy, but they're also not space cops.
I mean, they were in the prequels. I mean, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan literally went to enforce a trade deal. At the same time, though, prequels did not exist at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
When this was written.
What did Obi-Wan say in the New Hope? For 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace throughout the galaxy. Before the
Dark Times, before the Empire.
I mean, that doesn't tell you much, but it sounds pretty damn cool.
It does. It really does. It gives me more of a samurai vibe than a space cop vibe.
I guess that's the parallel that we have to draw then, is that these are the people who are keepers of the peace and philosophical and artistic nobility almost.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
I don't know. It's hard to just imagine this stuff on the fly. There's definitely some sort of fuzzy image that they have, but really hammering it down is a little difficult.
Well, I'm calling it now that we're building up to a major affirmation of the importance of the Force at some point later in this story.
Right.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some sort of clash of ideologies.
But, I mean, it is bizarre that Luke's not there. You're right.
Is there any other comments about this chapter before we close?
Not really. I did like how it was dual-sided.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
I like seeing the similarities between each side.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if Phalia parallels C'baoth in a way. We can explore that.
Huh. Who do you think parallels Thrawn then?
Oh, man. That's a good
Mon
question.
Mothma.
I would say maybe Mon Mothma, yeah.
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 Or maybe Phalia and Pellaeon are parallels. Actually, no. I feel like Akbar would be more of a Pellaeon parallel.
Yeah. I mean, it's also asymmetric as well. You've got 6 characters on one side and 3 characters on the other.
Yes, but our heroes are special.
It's a special. But I'm sure we'll get more juxtaposition in the chapters to come.
Yes, I'm excited.
This has been The Lost Holocron. You can find transcripts, links to discussions, and more on our website, lostholocron.com. While you're there, you can learn how to support the creation of future episodes. Read on, and we'll be waiting for you in the next transmission. We would be honored if you would join us.